Uh, hello. I'm Nick Tockert here with the Historical Fencing Guild, and we are back live for our weekly post. It looks like no one's on, but that little thing in the corner of the screen has lied to me before. So, this week, if you guys don't have more pressing conversation, because I always want these to be somewhere you guys can ask questions, comments, etc. You may be hearing pinging. That is uh, my Facebook through my phone due to some technical problems, and that is me getting comments from other ends, other people who are interested. So, live, bam, okay. So, again, we've got one viewer. Thank you. Please comment so I know that you're here, and hit the like button so YouTube knows to share these around. What I'm planning to talk about this week, actually, I want to do a kind of bit of a deep dive into my book, The Simple Sword. I know this has a fairly sedate cover. I do wish you could touch it because it is amazingly tactile. But I wanted to talk about what's in here, and I wanted to use it as a direct reference point so people could either ask what's in here, why is it different, etc. Because I really count this as a survey course for classical fencing. This is if you want to find out if you're going to get into classical fencing, what do you want to know? How do you want to fight? This is a great thing for answering questions you don't know you have yet. So, again, be sure, like, share, subscribe. And I'm going to keep prattling for a bit. Let me see. I keep getting contacted through my other messenger. People asking, are you live? Well, folks, if they'd followed the link, they know. And you know first. So before we get into this, I do need to talk a little bit about my sponsors, being me. Nick Tockert, author, artist, and all-around oddball. I'm not wearing any of my more elaborate hats today. I'm sure, Brian, we're all in this together. Coronavirus has hit a lot of people pretty hard. And we're just looking to see what's going on. And again, I'm sorry for the people who catch us in replay that it takes a while. Getting things rolling always does. But if we were to crack open this book, we have a lovely introduction. Whoa. Sorry for a minute. I have a touchscreen computer, and every once in a while, it gets a little enthusiastic. And I'm trying to get used to looking at the little dot. I may have to put an arrow up there or a smiley face or something so I have somebody to talk to. Tell you what, for the people who watch this, message me. What face or thing should I attach to the back of my computer to be looking at me to remind me to look at past the horrible dot of doom and at you? Okay. Simple Sword. Breaking it down. We've got the disclaimer. Guess what? Martial arts are dangerous. We've got the acknowledgments. My wife and a whole lot of people, some of whom have actually forgotten me. That's okay. I remember what you did for me, even if you don't. Now, we got the introduction. When I say my book is handy, that's right, folks. I want you to look at this lovely bit of immersive stick figure goodness and paint quality. Could I have gone innate or ornate speech impediment? Sure, but that wouldn't have been easy to process. What I do is I break the stances down in here. And I'm just going to use the beginning of this as a commercial. I need one. I break the motions down. I break footwork down. This makes learning how to sword fight simple, hence the name. I'm going to tell you a secret. People first off, are pretty fragile. So learning how to defeat people is not as difficult as some people think. And you don't need to be Herculean to be able to do. That being said, as someone who is often regarded as, we'll say, less than equal physically because of height or weight or the fact that I have T-Rex arms that my buddy's 6-year-old daughter at the time had longer reach than I do, I still win sometimes against people half my age with a foot on me. Maybe it's because I'm a sneaky, underhanded dude. And maybe I will show you the basics to being both sneaky and underhanded in this lovely volume. So I'm gonna this is it. I'm gonna talk about the book till somebody shuts me up in the comments. The Disengage. If you want to learn how to get your sword around another guy, that's how to do it. And it goes through just basic concepts. Here's an idea. Making your tools, should it be expensive? Okay, folks, I'm going to take a second here. I've mentioned it before. I need a bookmark, and this lovely piece of whatever will work. The coronavirus has most everyone stuck at home. It stinks, or hit them harder. I don't know how well this is going to come up, but my buddy Steve, when I said Herculean, I literally had Steve in mind. Yes, Steve, hitting them harder is always a solution if that's in your banks. And it's funny, we're going to talk about that more in the book I'm working on right now, one of my Corona projects, being the Strong Sword. That's the one you're really going to want to focus in on after you read this, because this is volume 1 for a reason. Volume 2 is going to be the Strong Sword, and volume 3, which is in the works, is going to be a little different. It may be focused more on survival techniques. It may be focused more on self-defense. There's some tinkering there. But for those who don't know, yes, the Strong Sword is in my head. The next one, which has a name that I am not sharing yet, is in the works beyond that. I just have to go through the process with this one. It took me 15 years to write the first one, so whenever I crank the next one out, it will be ahead of time. But since Steve is here, and since people, when they ask questions, other people want to hear it, thank you for the likes, and thank you whoever else is watching. Fire questions away. I mean, it's really neat because Steve is one of the people I know. Pardon me. That's not Corona. And you can't catch anything through the video. No, that is the fact I've been cleaning and working all day. But back to what I was saying. Stop that. I'm trying to stop. There's just breathing and speaking, and these things don't work real well with me, Steve. You are aware of this. My talents lie in helping people and precognitive actions and other things. Things like breathing requires a machine at night because I'm a member of the scuba sleeper squad, or CPAP, folks. I'm worried my wife's going to develop a Darth Vader fetish with the whole. I don't know. I probably shouldn't have said that, but it's funny, so I'm not caring. We need entertainment, and we need the full force of personality. That being said, at some point I want to get Steve on like a hangout thing if he can. The secret chef, has a nasty habit of being in redacted stan, like some of my other friends. So none of that either. But getting back to the book. Okay, what else is in it? Because people ask me, what's in your book? I don't understand why it matters. We're going to talk about, and this is where we might want to get into. We can talk about how to fight opponents by subclass. And it's interesting Steve's on because I talk about how to fight a much larger opponent. And I want to show this picture. This picture is based on very real events. This picture is based, the tall one, on my dear, dear friend, long displaced, many miles away and about a lifetime ago, it feels like anymore, John Miner. I learned a lot from John in Eastern stuff, and at the time I helped him with subtlety, largely because they said it could be done. But when you're fighting a larger opponent, you have to realize, especially with the larger weapon, they have every advantage. This is the part where Steve's happy because he's like, yes, because I have reach forever, which he does. Oh, we'll see if this stays up. We've used mechanical means, so hopefully it won't drop on my head this time. And it looks like we lost a viewer, but that is okay. I'm going to credit that to their net account and not the any failing of my personality. But fighting bigger guys, it can be done. You have to follow some rules. First off, you can't middle about in your ranges. You can either fight them at extreme long range, especially with a sword, or you can fight them directly, like I say, jump in their shorts, at ludicrously close range. Assuming your blades. This is totally different than open-handed. Open-handed fighting is a whole different ball game for this sort of thing. My advice primarily in the concept of open-handed fighting is don't. If you have to fight fair, you're fighting wrong. Now, I understand you have duels, you have games, you have things, and we talk about that. And on that side of things, absolutely. And there are techniques you can use. But real world, because with coronavirus, with what's going on, people ask me real world applications. Real world, cheat. Like, just cheat. If you are a little guy and the big guy is completely fair. Yes, it's completely fair. Steve's a Viking. Steve is one of those people who just waddled off a longboat, and in his pocket sand. Hi, Mags, I love you. Yes, pocket sand. Pocket sand is a buy everyday carry. I'm really thinking of having Amanda make me a nice elastic pouch just for the deployment of pocket sand, because the Democrats aren't trying to take away pocket sand. But that was a horrible thing to say. I'm going to get in trouble for that. And you know what? I don't care because it's the truth. But yes, pocket sand, sticks, knives, weapons. Survival is usually achieved from a smaller person by a ground glass. No, Trelena, we are not going ninja. I would never, when they look at the transcripts of this conversation, whoever may be reading this in the future, I would never suggest ground glass encapsulation. Especially, and now, slight caveat, because you don't want that. There's always the chance of a backfire. Pocket sand takes practice. You got to be in the dark in the backyard, like, pocket sand. Throwing sand at dummies and stuff. But I didn't see it yet. I don't even know what he's yetting for. But anyway, hey, hello, Joe Bachman. You are a god amongst men, and you've been blessed with an awesome wife. I'm really glad you could say hello and post comments. Of course, you did not know it. Hey, somebody's got to give low-cost training so that the rat thinks charging $100 for their book and This is off topic, but there is a guy out there I found out from one of his students who charges $180 an hour. Wow. Now, I'm not saying there aren't guys worth it, because if Doug Marcaita's like, sure, man, I'll spend an hour with you for $180. An hour of training with Doug freaking Marcaita could be worth it. There are a couple senseis out there, but this guy who spent $100, and I believe him, he was earnest, learned a downward cut. Vaguely katana, cut into third. Do I have anything two-handed here? Is it coming down? No, it's not. Like full on. Now, could he do it very, very hard? Yes. But he was taught a step in, downward cut, and the dude charged him $180. That is painful, and that is what I'm always up against. The other thing, I love historical manuals. It might shock you that I am a history geek. I run a channel called the Historical Fencing Guild. That being said, language and concepts evolve over time. Therefore, we need simple, easy to understand means to look into concepts, as I beat on the poor background harp again. But it is protecting the computer and junk behind me. So, getting back full circle to fighting long guys. Guys with more reach. If you fight anyone I've trained, I get the same frustrated. I bump into SCA guys who have fought my students and my colleagues, because my goal is always to get them out of student category and into, this is a conversation. Student, when I'm training somebody, I'm giving you a physical Rosetta Stone. And we're going to talk, this is terms and motions so that we understand how to talk. It's like elementary school. I am not one of those guys. I will train you to be the great dark master of the sacred art of the, shadow jutsu. No. There are amazing dudes who can do amazing high-level things. And if you have the right body type, the right economics, the right situation, you might be able to do them. I teach people how to be able to take a stick, sword, or whatever and make it go. And that might cost me viewers. I'm okay with that because that's part of the truth. I believe sword fighting as a means of exercise and as a means of defense, as a means of interest, as a means of catharsis in these dark, dark times, needs to be available for everybody as cheaply as possible. I am kind of poor at what I do because I put it all out there. I don't charge for my videos. I don't charge my students. I do have a Patreon, and it will be linked in the bottom when I share this. If you go to the Historical Fencing Guild channel, Patreon, look for the white boot, little cartoony guy. That's me. If you want to donate even $1 a month, that's how I can afford to buy trainers like this, so that I can review them and tell you if they're junk, and so that I can use them to demonstrate things. I have this one up here because it's short, but it's the perfect sword demonstrator when I need to be like, I'm pointing at the camera. It's cold steel, and I would have never thought cold steel would make. Lynn Thompson freaking made gold on this, and I hope he comes back to the mentality, whoever he engineered to make this, to make a matching sword at a cheap price point. Anyway, I keep getting distracted. Fighting big guys. The people who are my students' opponents, when they talk to me, they're like, Nick, or another name I used to use. Everybody you train is an arm sniping and usually an expletive. Yeah. Why? Because if someone is longer than me, I can't reach them, okay? They have reach, I can't get there. I can't grab the end of this. But I can poke halfway. It's really hard to demonstrate this without somebody here. But if you look at that picture, it's real simple. You look at this picture, I can't reach here. If we have swords, the gap that are roughly the same length, the gap is longer. And I'm going to tell you, big guys use proportionately long swords. It's not fair. It kind of sucks. But you can't get past that a lot of times. But there are sweet spots. And there are rules. Right here, the forearm is a wonderful target. It's usually behind where the guard is. So if I'm holding a sword, hold on, prop time. I'm holding a sword. I have a lot of protection right here because there's a cone of protection that comes out just like a buckler. And I talk about that in my book. When somebody's fighting you, sorry, I'm a little low. Okay, we'll just put the blade over. You have pieces, but do you see that? Watch, the door's going to open up. Bink! This right here is my favorite target on a large fighter. I love to come up under like a big old bass and just strike right there. It might take a lunge and a lean and a scoot step at the end for my short hobbit self to get there, but I can get there a lot easier than I can get here. You're like, that doesn't kill them. True. True. But how did I lose a bright orange? Ah, there it is. Whoop. It opens up on both sides. Watch. Boink. You see it? I am not going to point with the sharp end. Right here. That is where you want to target on a big guy if you're sword fighting. Because if you disable both their arms, they can't do a lot to you. Now we're going to talk about some of the other weaknesses of larger opponents. Larger opponents tend to function a lot like pickup trucks. They have a lot of torque out of the line. So that means a big guy can cover the first 2 feet, 2 strides, much faster than you normally can. Now it's interesting because a lot of times if you're going backwards, on most opponents, you get about 2 strides before they can catch up. Starting from a stop, because you see it going, you get about 2 strides. It's just the way it works. So if you have an excellent defense, what you can do is use a stuttering approach, which I don't know if that's in this book, or it's in the next book. Have to read them to find out. But that's where you let them go as fast as they can. Big guy has explosive muscles that they've developed to get the inertia built up in their mass. Anybody large. I'm a chunky guy, and I'm finding that about myself. I can't fast jog like I used to, but I am really fast. It's kind of like a rattlesnake. So there's a strike distance, and you want to figure that out. It's part of the range game, but not the blade game. It's the relative motion game. And I think it's important for you to understand that. So a lot of times what you can do is retreat, and once their mass is going, once their mass is advancing, you can then break off the line of attack, circle, and take them from the side. The trick is, even with the speed, agility, and relative weapons, unless you have a much longer weapon than I would recommend, it's very hard to get their body. But what you can do is bait them in, break off line, and take their arm. And that, you just have to realize that as soon as they collect themselves, it's like frog hopping, okay? Back when I was fencing a lot, I preferred open fields, and they'd get mad at me because I fought like a crawdad. I mean, just a lot of what I do is aquatic crustaceans. My sword and dagger style is based on golden fiddler crab, and that the golden part was part of a tongue-in-cheek discussion. And the my movement is very lobster or crawdaddy. That's just interesting. But back, bam. You have to, when you are smaller, you have to choose your fight. I said there were 2 approaches. That is one. That is the better one. The other one is to jump in their shorts. You have limited reach. You can't. They're going to. So you close in, get inside because a rapier has a band of attack. Let me get my book out for a second so that I can find where the rapier's band of attack is. But the rapier's band of attack shows where it is effective on the outside, but also, I know it's, aha, bam. For a thrust-based weapon especially, you have a band of attack. And once you get inside, track the tip. Let me see. Okay, I can reach. I don't have a lot of room right now. I'm working out, so I'm going to do this. I can reach this far. So from here, and I'm just going to mark it, right, to about here. This is my band of effective attack. It's about that long. So from where the tip is, it can't go any farther. This is it. If somebody is in this band, I can stab them. If they're not, I can't. I have to do something else. Either I have to advance, or I have to draw cut, or pommel strike. I have to do some very different things. Knowing where your opponent's band of attack, especially as a smaller fencer, and most of this does derive from fencing, so I use fencer a lot. Now, in the strong sword, we're going to get to more concussive styles. But, sorry, I got lost in the comment that came up. As you're inside, once you're inside, you're golden. This is where you switch from fencing to prison shanking. People ask me, you're no longer wanting, this is dagger range, you're wanting to get in there and just tomeberry. Get in. You're looking for sweet spots. People, where do you target? That's a great question. All right, I'm going to stand up and you get to marvel at my fat belly for a second. Okay. If I'm standing at you, right hand stance, so I'm in a traditional offensive stance. And you can close in under here. Places you want to reach as you go. The armpit is incredibly fatal. It's also the motion of block and ascend. I gotta get down low enough to show it. Block and ascend that knife. So you get the arm, you follow in through the armpit. You get the link between the wrists. We'll talk about that when you're using two weapons and you want them to stay connected. But other places. Obviously, you can stab for the heart in a points game, but that's kind of messy. I'm going to recommend shank upwards 45-degree angle. I want you to practice proper form. That's where you're going to want to go with it. And again, I am using the kitchen knife trainer because, one, it fits nicely in the screen, it shows up, and two, these days, I want you guys to be practical about your approach. I want to talk about it. It can take a second. Big guys. The other weakness, most large men, and when we're talking big people, we're not usually talking very large females. Though I have known some, and I absolutely adore tall girls, and I will take a moment to say, tall girls, if you're thinking about wearing footwear and you avoid it because it's uncomfortable or bad balance or tactically unwise, bravo. But if you're avoiding it because it makes you taller than the men around you, if they are not strong enough willed to handle somebody being taller than them, you deserve better. Little PSA, we're going to get back into the business. When you are going to shank, it's a verb. Going to go. Now, I talk to my students a lot once you learn how to throw combos. You don't want to be, I poke you, I parry. That's great for Olympic fencing when you have right of way. You want to be doing things. You want to always, when you're not in motion, be not in motion. When you're still, be still. Rest. It is possible to rest in the middle of a fight. I know your range. I'm not off guard, but I'm not maintaining A lot of Meyer guys you'll see do beautiful things. It's like all that's doing is giving me information. It's burning your stamina bar. And like Skyrim, you can just see the green bar going when they're like, whoa, whoa, you know, high guard swirls. Looks great on camera. What you want to fight is like an old man. Have you ever seen an old fighter? I'm talking somebody who's reached an age in a profession that is dangerous and is rare so. You see economy in motion. And especially when you're fighting bigger guys, or we'll talk about faster guys, you need, there it goes, you need to be able to calm, to center, and know from experience. Experience, what is it? Experiences gives, to make good decisions, you need experience. Experience comes from making bad decisions. So you need to try things in safe settings, like sparring with your sword master. But don't do anything that wastes energy, because if you spend years fighting a style that is elaborate and pretty and time consuming, when you go to fight, your body will do that. And I guard a lot against things like katas. I love drills. I love drilling. I love just working and figuring out how to get the angle and training myself. I've been doing this for 20 years. And I've been weak and done it. I've been strong and done it. I've been recovering and done it where I am right now. And it's when you can slowly throw your shot and go, okay, my shot is coming. It is smooth to do what needs to do. Okay. Link, link, link. The same motion over and over and over again. You're going to do the same things over and over, slow. Well, I see people drilling and like, da, 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 da. There's a place for that. One place. Knife fighting techniques from Folsom Prison. One of the finest self-defense knife fighting books ever written. If you really want to understand the primal bestial nature of the reality of using a knife. People see this and they're like, Nick, what are you going to do with this little black knife? And I tell them, it's not a weapon, it's a tool. I don't count that as such. I don't. But if I have to, Nick, if you have to, what are you going to do? I say, I'm going to shank the out of somebody. Because that's what you should do with a small knife. The purpose of a small knife, when used defensively, is hopefully for the bad guy, and we're assuming defense, not to see it, and then you use it till they stop doing whatever you want them to stop doing. And as soon as they stop, you have to stop. That's the legal mandate for self-defense is you always have to stop once you've negated their ability to harm you. That is sort of my understanding. I'm not a lawyer, but from what I've looked at, once you take that step farther, then you are now the criminal. It's like if somebody is trying to beat me up, and I just come over here, I pull my sword cane, and I stab them in their leg. They fall down. I am legally obligated, if possible, to run away. That's not cowardice. That is protecting yourself from the next threat, which is incarceration. And as soon as I'm moving, my phone is out and I'm calling the police, because you always want to be the first person to call 911. Because the police will tend to believe the story of the first person. And a lot of bad guys are smart enough where if they get hurt doing something bad, they'll call 911 and say you did something bad to them instead. You have to be vigilant. And that's part of self-defense that isn't talked about a lot. But back to the field. So, we've talked about how to fight bad guys who are larger than you. It really is, you can't match strength for strength with somebody stronger than you, which sounds simple, but people forget. You can never, ever let ego get in the way of good combat, of good training, of good. And I have 4 people watching and 2 likes. So whoever isn't, please consider hitting the like button. That just helps. The more likes I get, the more YouTube will share my stuff, the more people I can help. That's the only reason I'm asking that. But that's part. You'll notice, Nick, you keep hopping from the simple sword and fencing to self-defense. Well, in my universe, the techniques overlap. I'm not going to waste time teaching you something that won't. I don't ever want anybody to have to defend themselves physically. It sucks. A lot of people have never, I know a lot of people who've never been in a physical altercation. Oh, sorry, my phone's being screwy again because it does that. Phone. Wow. Okay, sorry. But they've never had someone actually attempt to do harm to them. And there's a mythos. A lot of people start feeling like they're superheroes, you know. Oh yeah, fight broke out. And no matter how tough you are, a physical blow, someone hitting you in anger, has emotional and mental repercussions. And so does hitting somebody, no matter how justified it is. Now, part of it is I do have a Christian upbringing, and I don't flog people with it, but I also don't like deny it. It's part of who I am. It's part of what I am. I believe any time I've had to resort to violence to defend myself, there's been a failure. And I don't go looking for it. Thank you for whoever just liked me. But you have to be prepared. And that's why when I talk about it, I talk about how you train for the fun side of things. I love playing Zorro. I love playing Pirates of the Caribbean, man. Just I'm out and I got a friend. It's a beautiful day. Look at the old videos. You know, the before times. I've actually got some videos that I had they corrupted. I might be able to fix them. I'm trying some mojo of me and my good friend Jim, who you know from this channel. Sword fighting, he got steel. He got his first steel fencing rapier. And we actually got to play a bit. And we're not in proper armor. We've got masks on. But it's just what I'd consider 3/4 speed, half speed to get a feel. That's fun. I'm not thinking Jim's trying to hurt me. Jim's not. But at the same time, I am thinking that that's a metal object coming at my face. And I use the same block, the same motions, the same parries. And it's funny, a lot of my gestures are much more open-handed than usual. Uh, it's not really the fencing style I normally teach. And the fact that that's coming out mid-conversation tells you actually how seriously I'm taking this COVID-19 scenario. We live in a world where bad guys could do bad things. And I get a lot of people, the answer is just gun. And guns are fantastic weapons. They are devastating. They are tactically superior to knives and swords in most ways. I don't deny that. But I try, if possible, to have a limited response. And I want more options usually than a firearm gives me. Now, that is a choice I make. And I also say, if you're going to be a gun owner, there are millions of gun owners right now. If somebody was walking around with a sword on their hip, like this one, this is one of my favorites for sheer practical use. I put the little rapier back where it lives, the Spanish Bilbao, because, well, I need it there to be able to sleep at night. But if somebody's, you're going to think, boy, I hope that guy's trained in that. I hope he has some idea how to make that thing go. And that's part of what I do. But if somebody's walking around with a gun on their hip, this is not a real gun. This is my Van Gap. It's a little toy 1911 I purchased for very, very little as part of a movie prank. And being me, I made it just in case the cartoon, apocalypse happens and, a certain mouse hops off the screen. You can put it back. It's a joke. Don't take this serious. This is inexpensive. I actually bought this as a way to show, and actually, before I decorated it, test my son on gun safety. This used to look very realistic. And what I did, because it's very realistic, I bought it and I left it out. And I was out of the room to see what he'd do. And what he did is he came and, Dad, there's a gun. And he pointed to it and he didn't touch it. And he didn't let anyone else touch it. He told him, don't let anybody else touch it till Dad gets here. So he definitely got, do this. Keep your finger off the bang hook. My fingers, like everything, my arms are so short, sometimes I miss the trigger guard, so I have to kind of strain to get it where it needs to be. This is not a gun channel, but it is a defense channel, and I feel it needs to be discussed. This is, for YouTube's purposes, I want to show something, because it looks semi-realistic. This is not a gun. It does fire these plastic projectiles. It fires them at about a devastating 5-foot range with the impact of a marshmallow. I am not being facetious. I don't know if this thing could successfully drop across a room, but it's fun. So, sorry. I wanted to talk about that. Okay, we've talked about big guys. And yes, the other option, big guy, Colonel Colt. They're a larger target. What about fighting smaller people? Would it shock you to hear that fighting smaller opponents than me is one of the most challenging? And I'm glad you count on that. I missed that comment, or there was lag. It's a very, very strange thing for me. Because the group I fought in, save for my original swordmaster, who I still claim because I learned a great deal from him, even though I left the organization, a man by the name of Dennis Yakis. He was shorter than me and would be defined as physically limited. I won't use the disabled, but he was inspirational in that he's one of those people, knowing his background and what he does, I can never give myself an inch. It's sort of like Jim. Jim's a 2-time cancer survivor. And I know martial artists, I know swordsmen, I know veteran buddies of assorted acronyms and things. And I still count Jim among some of the toughest. Because if you go back, and I want you to go back to some of the real early videos, you'll see Jim in the background, and you'll see Jim in the foreground. And I'll be honest, he looks kind of not well. That's because he had chemo going on. He was learning how to sword fight while getting chemotherapy. So that's pretty dang tough. That's, to borrow a politically incorrect term, it's ballsy. But I don't give myself between men like Jim, men like Dennis. Sorry, my nose itches. I know, don't touch your face. I don't give myself much leniency. Now you'll see me. Pay attention. Sometimes I fight with the cane. And a lot of times I fight using the cane. And I'm trying to develop a better cane for that. Because you guys need to see that that's possible and it's doable. And my style involves fighting with a cane too. You should be able to do it. I've taught blind people to fence. I've taught people with physical handicaps. So when you're at home and you're working at this, you can learn to fence. All you need is literally anything roughly this shape. A broomstick, a pool cue, the front half works better for fencing. A full length, segmented pool cue works decent for staff and spear work. Obviously, it's a little dubious for greatsword, but it makes for a rat tail cane, which works really good in Wing Chun long pole. Long pole will be in spear in the strong sword. It's already in the outline, but I want you guys to think in that. And I'm sorry, I got distracted. We're the next type of opponents, smaller opponents. It's hard for me. It's probably one of my most challenging because to fight a smaller opponent, you have to do everything opposite the big guys do. So if you've got the range, accuracy, and timing, you know where your range is before they do. You can sniper them, which is another style, fairly effectively. That's where they don't know that you can hit them. And it just comes in like a ballistic missile. Another thing is if you're taller and they're in a low guard, so I'm trying to get a lot of people low guard, head is tilted down. It's just a natural reaction, so you minimize, but it creates a blind spot right about here. So if you can throw your shot up an arc, you can actually pop people and just dome them from outside their range. Whoops. My glasses broke as part of the apocalypse and are currently held together by duct tape. I have new ones coming in the mail, but it'll be a while till they arrive. Sorry, there's a fire out in the farmer's field across the street, and it's moving, so I'm assuming it's one of the like weed eater flamethrowers on the front of a combine. Tell you what, glancing out the window in the dark, that is something to see. Sorry, but distracted. I have squirrel vision, but so just dubbing them, just reach out and touch them before they even get near you. That's one way. Another way is to actually envelop them. A lot of small people are going to try to close. Dagger. And the problem is, proportionately, this has been done. This is this length for body mechanic purposes in the arms of some of the big guys I fought. What? Okay. If I hold on to this, it is nearly a sword. It is with it, like, honestly, it would only need that much to be the bare minimum of what I would consider maybe that much blade length of a sword. Okay? Sword. And again, Cold Steel, please, please, please make one of these like this long. I will love you forever and buy 10. But keep it light. Anyway, but when this is in the hands of somebody like Steve or my buddy John or my old buddy Jesse, rest in peace, something like this is proportionately this long. Okay, the reach is nearly double mine, so the reach of the sword, if it's the same, is nearly half. Does that make sense? I hope so, because I'm going to keep working with it. If you can't work out that sort of master geometry, just tag me and I'll try to go over it. Now, that's, here they get in, bonk, reach around, poke them. This is one of the few times where reverse grip makes sense. I am not a reverse guy. I can do it. Steve's a reverse guy. My buddy Al is a reverse guy. My buddy John can be. I've known a couple Marines who reverse grip K-bar is left over from the trench knife style of fighting, and that's where they live. I might visit from time to time, but that's not where I live. That being said, that pull and stab is very effective. And essentially, as long as you can tangle the weapons out, close in, rein in from the neck, shoulders, because you're taller, so you're attacking from above, pound down. There's an open-handed fight. It's one of my favorite fights I've watched of all time. Two guys are sparring, pop, 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 pop. And because they're just tap calibration. And that's what you should be able. You should have the control to tap calibrate and ramp all the way to, like, I am breaking cinder blocks, if that's your whole bit. I think, let me see. I need to see if people, because some people who aren't subscribed on YouTube message me through through my Facebook Messenger. And it looks like all of that is drivel, so I'm not going to worry about it. Bam. Okay? And again, this, one of my favorite trainers. The other thing big guys can do, start single. Okay? Make your opponent more comfortable. Let them think all they have to do is get past this. Because if you've got a dagger on your hip, I used to wear one on my belt. Parked somewhere around here. They see the stick, you fight them single. When they get close, bogey. And yes, bogey is a viable description of a fencing attack. And if it's not, you're taking it too seriously. Pardon my cough. We need to think in terms of what works for us. Long guys have more reach. Also, mechanically, I say your weapon, the blade, should roughly be no longer than your center line out to your outstretched 2 fingers. Okay? I'm having a little trouble because of that. This is almost exactly a perfect blade length for me. It's 36 inches. I'm 5'8", and even though I'm a little short, 5'7" and a half, it depends which leg you measure from. But that means this is a very comfortable size. This is also why, at blade length, this is a traditional fencing sword's blade length, which, keeping things fair and balanced between fair and balanced people. But somebody like my buddy John, who's 6'4", and if you've seen Haggard, you've seen John. He's a little more Viking about it, right? Well, rides motorcycle, does arcane magic, but is kind of off the side. John pretty much is Haggard. I mean, he's a little more Scotch, and he parties harder, but he is definitely Haggard. That being said, his rapier's 43 inches is still kind of short, and I've seen him pick up. Like, a great sword is a bastard sword hand and a half, because his fist is that wide. I set the pinky on the side. All this is one fist. This is a large man. Large men should wield large weapons. They're the ones that it makes sense, not little scrawny, perfectly tussled anime people. Sorry, guys. Love it too. And I'm looking at you, Cloud. Love it too. But Barrett would hold a larger melee weapon far faster than you would in any semblance of reality. But getting back to online. So you should do that. And you should not be afraid. Everything needs to scale. So if you are a small fencer, like I am, I'm rather short, and your weapons are going to be proportional, and that's okay. You only need to protect you. But if you're a big guy, you need it, and that's not an advantage. It's just keeping you your fight. I tell people find your fight. I will teach you the basics, then you find your fight. That's why, though I have many students and many people I've worked with, no two fight identical. Because I'm not that kind of teacher. I'm not the guy, this is the only way. I've met that. That only works if you're nearly a body double. And yeah, that motion here, yeah, exactly what I think of that approach. But I'm in a mood tonight. If you can't grasp that, then you're going to have problems because body mechanics are what rule. And that's what got me to write my book, because I was reading a wonderful book on, I think it's called, is it Introduction to the Sword by Dr. Yang Joing Ming? But it's great. I mean, if you want to learn Jin fighting, that's a wonderful start, wonderful system. The man's just a genius. Eastern. But the thing is, and I tell people, the elbows, the joints, the body mechanics of a Chinese man in the Ming Dynasty are the exact same body mechanics of an 1880s fencer. They're the same body mechanics of a Scot in 1432. Every humans move in limited ways. You know, the arm goes from roughly a flat 180 to about 135 angle. It fluctuates, but that's about it. The elbow, the wrist can only supplement so far. So you can look at styles from assorted systems and buffet your way through once you've got a baseline. And that's what I encourage my students to do. That's why Jim is just like, he is my Scream a two-stick guy. He just drumsticks his way through. It's gorgeous to see. It's not my gag, but it's awesome. Kind of wish it were, but it's, we work on it. I'm pretty much the guy who does the short stick, and I'm the guy who does just about everything else, because that's what I do. My shtick is I have no shtick. Everything is my shtick, just a little bit. And maybe that's where you should be too. Now, it is going on an hour of broadcast, and not many viewers for the live, but I hope people come back. I really do hope people come for the replay, because I put a lot of good material out. And I'm going to take a minute to remind you guys, because we're keeping on the topic of what keeps me afloat. And the Simple Sword, $4.99 on Amazon as ebook, $24.99. I think I might have it on sale. Is it? You'll have to look on Amazon in this lovely, like, matte, soft. It feels almost felt. It's really gorgeous. And that's the hour-long mark. That is what's going to keep me afloat. Joining my Patreon, which will be in the gobbledygook at the bottom. That is what keeps me afloat. I don't charge my students. Wow, would you recommend short? Okay, cool. Hello, Into the Woods. Would you I just got your comments, so if there's lag, I apologize. And please like this video. Would you recommend shorter gravitate toward weapons that favor longer if available when fighting a larger opponent? Okay, this is where you run into problems. That's the temptation. Now, there's a difference, okay? And these are really great. For instance, a side sword built for 6 foot would have a similar length to that of Rapier. Rapier built for, yes, it would. The problem is you start fighting weight and leverage. One, it is far better to fight with one weapon. You pick, especially as a starter, a weapon that fits you and is comfortable. I very often I would catch flack because my fencing sword, my personal rapier, was 34 inches long. I got a great deal on it. It was an oval Schlager. That dates me a bit for people who know. But I was going up against 38s and 42 43s, especially those Hanweis. And people kept telling me, use that longer sword. The problem is, no matter how well balanced, if you make it longer, it's going to be heavier. And worse, especially for a weaker person, the leverage is more affecting in a one-handed weapon, you know. So, as a shorter person, I would say stick to the weapon that is your ratio, okay? Actually, a lot of these days when I'm fighting steel, I fight with my 30. I have a 30-inch saber hilt, and I might bring that out next time off in the woods because it fits my body mechanics. The tip isn't going to drag when I go for a low guard. It requires you to train with the mentality of fighting a bigger person. But if I knew I was going to fight a larger opponent and I had my druthers, I'm more inclined to say that is why spears were developed. And I really wish more rapierists, fencers especially, would look into spears. Because mechanically, a spear, a short glaive, a short keep to about eyebrow height. Eyebrow height to about a foot, maybe foot and a half taller than you. That's going to give you that reach. And when you train with it, it's going to be very similar of the linear line. You know, the lines of attack are just upsized. But I regularly fight 6 foot tall people with weapons that are much shorter. And I have really found that the longer weapons reach a point of imbalance. Now, I want to caveat that if you're going to use a longer weapon, okay, you're going to want to lean towards Spanish footwork. Look up Maestro Ramon Martinez. He did and pardon, I have a horrible speech impediment, so I have to work around it. The La Destreza de Verdad. He did that through Palpable Hit Productions, Anthony DeLongis' company. You can find wonderful Spanish. It's a 3-disc set. It is expensive. It is very, very expensive. In that, it's last I checked, it's like $70 for the first one. It might be down to 50. I'll have to look at it, and then figure about 150 for the set. I don't even own the third one yet. I need to, but fantastic swordsman. Another thing you want to do is learn counters, because a lot of people who fight, the longer the sword as a rapier, now this is just fencing, the longer the sword as a rapier, the more linear the fighting style. Okay? What I mean is, okay, I'm going to pull this out again because it shows up on camera. This is relatively short. So when I'm blocking with it, let me just see if I can get the room. Okay. A lot of windshield. I mean, That's why I love this. If you don't know your proper angles, this guard is all pointed at the bad guy. It gives you a good thing. You keep it roughly in line with your arm when you get there. This is good. You know, but you can grip it flat, especially I have one in the garage that I put a main Gauss rig so that I can present it and just shield block my way till I need to get where I'm going. As soon as you have something longer to go down, it has to be extended if you're short because it'll drag the ground and it'll tangle. So it's not necessarily the most popular opinion, and what works for you is what you need to try. And I also don't know what group you're in, so I don't know if you're in a group any weapons regulations, because some are very particular about sword lengths or sword styles, and some are much more fluid. So yeah, always agree with the rules that you're playing by. And thank you for the like. I hope that answers your question a bit. And I can do some, if people want, I can try to do some. Unfortunately, it has to be mostly one man unless I get my wife out. Videos discussing fighting, techniques for a smaller person. And please, if you haven't, consider my book. It's actually, if you have Kindle Unlimited, you can try it for free. You just download it through Kindle, and I get a pittance for the pages read. But I appreciate it. Don't say anything. But I'd rather you have full access all the time. That's why and I don't DRM my stuff because I'm a sucker, but I know I'm a sucker. I want people to be able to learn to fight. But yeah, my favorite live steel rapier right now is about 24-inch blade. It's a little short guy, and my favorite fighting weapon is either 34 or. Just realized the screen. Oh, okay. Hi, Ryan. I'm sorry. I thought you were like a complete newbie. No. People watching, that's Ryan Coker, the wonderful, dashing gentleman who came out and did all that really gorgeous Meyer stuff. Yeah. Since you know my background a bit more and you've been around, definitely get them to train with a weapon scaled to them. It's better that they adjust their technique to meet a situation than the weapon to meet their situation, because it will always throw them off in the end. And I hope that's helpful. I'm not sure who you're talking to. I know you're right around 6 foot, so I'd assume you have an opponent you're either working with. Send me the details or PM me. If there's anything I can do to help, I'll be glad to, especially in this whole quarantine thing. Anything I can do to help a member. But fighting a little person can be, especially a fast one, can be distracting. I used to have a student, and her name was Diane. I called her Peekadive because you put a little sword in her hand, a little dagger. She didn't even want full size swords. She loved the 17.5-inch daggers, and she would just teleport. I could barely track her motions. One of the fastest people I ever fought. It's a tragedy she moved away and hasn't been able to fight. I miss her, but well, if you keep to your rapier that's scaled to you, it's very comfortable. Now, I'm sorry, I poke a lot of fun at Meyer, and I don't want you thinking that I'm poking fun at you, because you're an amazing swordsman. But yeah, sorry, got off talking to someone, and I'm looking at their text, so I probably look goofy on camera. But yeah, pick weapons that are scaled to you and fit your personality, especially if you're doing something HEMA. Don't be afraid, if it's legal, to use something like a small axe as your offhand. I am a big. Oh, you're good. Appreciate it. Hey, awesome. Uh, Especially, I find a certain class of lady, especially smaller ladies, really seem to enjoy hatchet fighting. The kind of aggressive chopping motion, because with a hatchet, which of course I don't have up here because I never know which props. So we're gonna turn this into a hatchet because it hooks. You can hook with that, and then your primary comes in and does the job. Wonderful, wonderful tools. Well, my little hammer here, but absolutely, that's one of the reasons I love teaching people to start with something simple like this. Is they can do, two-handed grip it to get a feel. It's a staff that you can swing indoors. Your pool cueing, a lot can be done. I'm big. Technically, it's called fighting with a rod. I'm a big fan of these little guys. I don't know anybody else who really is Joe staffs, but yes, and I am prone to prattle. We great question. Great question. So I gotta look because I want to keep. Unfortunately, this chair. We're not talking techniques, we're talking opponents. And I just went through fighting a smaller fencer, right? And look, that parry under come up. That this is the land of the smaller fencer. Okay, that's a hand parry, wonderful concept. Not always the wisest. I far prefer to have something in that hand, but that gives you you wanted that lower angled attack as a smaller fencer. But against them, it's just hard. You have to control your situation. Oh yeah, and range. Always play range games on a smaller fencer because you usually have more. Okay. Next fighter we're going to talk about. I don't really have a picture because there's no way to depict an aggressive fencer that isn't getting into comic book realm in my mind. It's a lot of motion. Aggressive fencers, bam, and they're in your face. It become an aggressive fencer becomes very, very devastating very early in the match, especially if they can jump the distance and skewer you. I've had it happen to me a couple times, and I will admit I just got blasted by one kid because he jumped the Leon, and not sour grapes. The dude just jumped the Leon, and he was already before it hit. But okay. Now, if you keep going, they keep pressing, bam, 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 bam. If you can weather the initial onslaught and you're prepared, either through a defensive set of counters or you're meeting force with force. If you're that good, you're in their shorts, stand in their shorts. It's a tight battle. Wow, that looked like 90s anime. But oh, unfortunately, I got bounced at this point. I'll be sure tomorrow. Thank you. And you know what? I will every week. I'm going to be here at it's. I'm starting. We're an hour 15 in roughly. I start at 8 o'clock my time, which is Central Time. No, which is Eastern Time. I'm sorry. I moved down and farther to the state line, but because of where I moved, Eastern Time, 7 o'clock Central Time, every Friday night until this is over, or my net gives out. But getting back into what I was saying, the most important thing with fighting I'm not giving you everything. There's more goodness in this book by all means, but I'm giving you at least a cursory. Is you have to know your range, and you have to have a flawless defense, because an aggressive fencer is not an efficient fencer. So they're going to come. It's usually the young guys. And I use guys. You know what I mean. We're not. They're just throwing shots. Now, if you know your range, and you can establish theirs real fast, the best thing you can do is ghost just out of range. You want to be frustrating to them. The more you can frustrate an aggressive fencer, the better off you are. You want them to, because if they're either going to make a mistake, they're going to come in and they're all attacked, so they're wide open. You might be able to surf that middle road in. If not, you just wear them down a bit. You let them rain their blows. You keep them moving, and you'll notice I'm backing away. I am not an aggressive fencer. I've never, not since, before my back went out originally, and they said I was going to be in a wheelchair. I was rather aggressive. I was fast, and I would jump in people's shorts, and it was awesome. And then I got old and gimpy and fat. Now I'm a defensive fighter. It's like, Nick, you can't say that. That's self-defamating. No, it's true. It's true, and as long as I know who and what I am, it can't be used against me. To paraphrase Peter Dinklage. Aggressive fencers. Bam, 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 bam. There's very little guile in an aggressive fencer other than jumping the gun. Therefore, it leaves you lots of time for guile. If you could, the other thing is they love their rhythm. They love, sewing machine, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. High, low, bam, 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 bam. You can rapidly, because they're going to give you lots of repetitions, figure out their pattern. And if they have a pattern, you have a chance. You just have to get them before they break their pattern. And we'll talk about that if you are an aggressive fighter. Aggressive fighters are going to be like that. I got my shots. I got what I love. Pop, 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 pop. You're going to do the same thing. It's like fighting is a lot like playing a song. It has clauses. It has statements. There's stanzas. Smoke on more. Bum, 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 bum. The riff everybody should know on a guitar. Bum, 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 bum. So they're bum, bum, bum. Coming in. Bum, 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 bum. When you know that the change is coming, nope. Interrupt them rudely with an audacious strike. The audacity. If you properly counter a offensive fighter, it sounds stupid, but it will feel like you've interrupted somebody mid-conversation. There's an inherent rudeness that I find delightful. I don't know if that makes sense. This is heavy metacognition about sword fighting. But these layers are all things that I talk about. We're going to train at the base layer. Parry out, go in. Always parry away from your body. Simple. Shortest distance, nope. If somebody's stabbing at you, here, out. Not here, in. Because it has all that time before you're clear of it, and you've either advanced through or you've retreated away. Simple windshield wipers. Daniel-san, wax on, wax off. Big joke, except it's totally true. The drum thing has its place too, but that gets a little more shanky. Let's see. You know what? We're down to 2 viewers. I have a couple more, so I'm going to stop right here in the book. And I'm going to say at page 52 for those who actually open up their books to see what the heck I'm talking about. Because the last part was the aggressive fencer. And actually, we're going to stop at 51 for the fighting the defensive fencer. And that will be on this channel next Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. If you like what I'm doing, if you want to help out, and if you can spare a dime, consider becoming a patron on my Patreon. It will be in the gobbledygook once I process this video. And if you want to learn this and you don't own a copy of my book, if you have Kindle Unlimited, you're golden. Just download it, and you can have it for free through them. If you want to buy it through Kindle, it's $4.99, and I think it's $24.99 for the paper because I have color pictures, and that's the rate Amazon kind of forced me to do. So anything you can do to help. If you like this, like, share, subscribe. If you have something else to say about this, comment now. Contact me at Nicholas Tockert at yahoo.com. That's one you can contact me at. Or look on the Facebook page, Nicholas A. Tockert II, Creator. That's my public Facebook account. There's also a Historical Fencing Guild public group that you're more than welcome to join as long as you're civil. So with that, I'm going to sign off for the evening. I hope you have a wonderful night, guys. Stay safe. And as always, support your local swordmaster.